Twitter and politics have been buddies these past few years, for better or for worse. And now those worlds are colliding even further. Twitter filed a lawsuit against the United States government in response to demands by the Department of Homeland Security that were to reveal the true identity behind the @alt_USCIS Twitter account. Twitter warns that unmasking the account would have a chilling effect on free speech and that the request is actually unlawful. First Amendment, of course, protects users who would post something that is critical of the government, let's say, on a service like Twitter. And that's what they're pushing back on. The account apparently was very critical about the Trump administration, but also very revealing about U.S. immigration policies.
Okay, so my first question about this story is they sent their requests for the user's information via fax. And so people use fax machines?
Well, you know, from what I understand, Donald Trump is not a fan of the internet, and I don't say that jokingly. Like, he's actually, from what I understand, he's not a big-time user of electronic communications online. Maybe this is an extension of that. I honestly don't know. Maybe fax is just the way they do it.
I guess. Well, the other way they did it by fax was they demanded it by March 13th. And yet they sent the fax on March 14th.
So time travel is required.
Yes. Okay, but all joking aside, the First Amendment, I believe, protects anonymous free speech. It should and it does. And so they weren't threatening. This account wasn't threatening. I found this on the EFF. This was from McIntyre versus Ohio Election Commission. Anonymity is a shield from the tyranny of the majority. It thus exemplifies the purpose behind the Bill of Rights and the First Amendment in particular to protect unpopular individuals from retaliation at the hand of an intolerant society. So let's hear it.
You need that on a shirt.
You do. I do want that on a shirt. I want it on a laptop sticker is what I want.
Right.
You know? But yeah, I think good on Twitter for doing this. You know, Twitter and free speech, it's confusing because they're their own platform. Like they can, you know, if they take someone off the platform, that's their choice. You know, it's not necessarily a violation of free speech if they say, like, here's our community rules and you're not obeying them. But, you know, they're allowed to say to the government, like, no, this person, whoever has this account deserves to be anonymous. They're not doing anything that's against our rules.
Right. And I mean, what happens if and when Twitter, you know, when it's realized that Twitter is forced to give over because of critical words that a Twitter account had on their feed, is forced to give over the names, the addresses, the phone numbers. And, you know, apparently this was accompanied with a threat of sanctions against Twitter if they weren't compliant to the request. So that's why we are where we are right now. And yeah, apparently the Department of Homeland Security had no public comment, as I'm sure they don't comment about these sorts of things while they're active. But Twitter has repeatedly been, or at least very recently, been very good at pushing back against the thought or the idea of its service being used as a way to surveil. So this is kind of an extension of that.
Yeah.
Big time extension, actually, when they filed the lawsuit.
Right. I mean, that's one thing that they've always stood for, free speech. They've always, and that is why that we've encountered so many of the problems where people have been violent and hateful and abusive and harassing, because this is all in honor of free speech. We're not going to, you know, we're going to allow people to say these things. I think this case is very interesting because aside from like the Apple case or other like WhatsApp cases when you're dealing with encryption and a government saying, hey, turn over this information, and, you know, Facebook or Apple saying, we don't have that information, it's encrypted. Twitter, in fact, has that information. They know who opened this account. I mean, they do have some information. So, you know, they have to stand up and say, no, we're not going to turn it over to you.
Right.